This is the initial setup for the stance platform. First thin sheet of plywood is on the bottom. Next I lay foam sheet on the top. And then the top sheet of plywood, lining them all up so that they are square. Now I use the Optishot to make a line as far as the edge of the Optishot goes inward to get a line for the Optishot placement itself. Now I've used a straight edge just to make the complete line itself, going the full length of the stance platform along the 5-foot length. I'm now going to take a wedge to determine the back position for hitting. As you can see, and at the back I can actually move forward a little bit here. And this would be the mark for the ball placement on the Optishot or other golf simulator. I have made a mark where the wedge was after taking my stance. The ball would be at the back of my stance for a wedge. I'm now going to take a stance with my driver to make sure that I'm comfortable as far as position goes. That gives me the ideal position for the Optishot, where the tee hole would be right at the spot of the mark. I could probably have gone with a 4-foot by 4-foot stance platform, but I prefer to have a little larger one. If you want, you can use one sheet of plywood, splitting it in half, and that would decrease your cost accordingly. I have now placed my aftermarket turf on top of the Optishot because it does extend beyond the front and back of the unit. I'll now mark both the front and back to use as my guide for making my cutout. I have made the cutout in the top piece of plywood and will now use that as a template for cutting the foam. I do not want to cut the bottom piece of plywood because that will be the base for the golf simulator to stand on. I also made the length about 1/8 inch longer so that I can reinforce the front of the opening so that the golf simulator, when hit down on, does not dig into the foam. I'll put a small piece of aluminum there or plywood just to fill that area and make it more stable. As you can see, after making both cutouts, the golf simulator sits quite well inside the opening. It does seem slightly low. That can be compensated for by putting a couple of pieces of plywood or something else underneath to raise it just enough. Remember, this stance platform will also have carpeting on it when it is finished. So you will want to raise the golf simulator by probably about 1/4 inch. That final shim can take place after everything else is assembled and glued. Now all that remains is gluing the foam to the bottom plywood and the top plywood to the foam in the proper position. From there, simply attach by gluing or taping a carpet on top, and you're set to go. As I suggested, you should also put a small piece of plywood in front of where the Optishot golf simulator sits, so that as you're hitting it and it tends to try to bounce forward, it does not dig into the foam. To reinforce the front, you can simply take the piece of plywood you cut out and cut a small section that will fit nicely in front. That will stabilize the foam so the Optishot or other golf simulator does not dig into the foam.